Even though the heat was blistering, I went with monks to the powwow that Torito had talked about. I never got around to calling him, sadly, with everything that was going on. I had completely forgotten. Luckily, monks found me at the library and whisked me off to her house to get ready for the big event. She was driving now, too. If Andy had not kept me so busy the last few days, I would be too. C'est la vie. School was finally over, and the uncertainty of what lay ahead in life didn't bother me at that moment. All I wanted was to enjoy myself, to let loose and have fun. My birthday was also approaching, born in August, right when the Perseid meteor shower was at its peak. Every year, I would wish on those falling stars, praying that I'd find my parents, whether they were alive or dead. Never did I imagine that when I finally found my father, he would be undead. Wink, wink. Tonight's celebration was a gathering of multiple tribes, and although I didn't know my mother's tribe, I hadn't grown up around many tribes in New Mexico. I knew nothing about the culture, but I wanted to know. This particular powwow was a gathering of nations of sort. They weren't from California, but despite the distance, I felt an inexplicable connection to everyone here. This was the only place where I ever truly felt like I belonged, around the people, even as an orphan. But was I really an orphan? Not anymore, it seems. I had a vampire father, and perhaps somewhere out there, a werewolf mother who might still be alive. It was the secret hope of every orphan. Andy said werewolves and vampires lived long lives, so I wasn't going to give up. Tonight felt different. I imagined my mother being here, hiding in the shadows, watching me from afar, just like my father. If they were here, I desperately hoped they would come and speak to me again. I was happy to be out and feel normal again with my new bracelet, and overjoyed to have found a new best friend. I had known monks for a few years, but we had only recently become close. My other friends, Sel, Manda, and Moniker, had drifted away. Sel went straight to work after high school. Manda moved to another state, and Moniker married into the military and was off with her husband. Monks were one of the last few to stay in the valley. I've been dying to tell monks about my parents and Andy, but I wasn't sure how she'd react. She was always so confident, so carefree. Why would I want to burden her with the dark secrets of my family? So I kept it to myself. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that Torito knew something. Even if he didn't say it outright, there was something in the way he looked at me, the way he called me cousin, just like that teacher did. I often wondered if he was a werewolf too, like Andy. Maybe that's the real reason why I never called him back. Things felt too awkward between us.
No, not a wolf,
Luz replied. Interesting. Supposedly, I was Andy's mate, whatever that meant. Like a soulmate? Whenever I asked Luz, she would just reply,
yes, yes, yes,
to everything. Andy had been spending a lot more time together recently, but there were moments when he seemed distant, like he was struggling to communicate with me. I didn't know if that was a werewolf thing, but Torito and I never had any problems talking. If Torito was a werewolf, how was it that he wasn't a rogue? Was there a pack here? I was probably wrong. Luz said he was not, and now that I think about it, he is nothing like Andy. Andy was strong. He had a unique scent, different from everyone else, and there was something about him that made me feel at home, even when he retreated into his own thoughts. When we touched, it was like I could sense what was on his mind, and sometimes his thoughts were just as dark as mine, and that was okay. We were both still processing dark memories from our past. Sometimes there was nothing we needed to say. We would just sit side by side and enjoy each other's company. I'm very intrigued and curious about him. I think he knew this, but for some reason, he shied away from me that one night. The night I requested to see him shift into a wolf. I didn't think he was shy. Quiet, but with spouts of awkward social anxiety, yes, but not shy. So that night had left a hole in my heart. I needed a connection from him. The last time we spoke, though, was completely different. He said he was going out of town for a few days for work, but that he would return. The thought of him leaving made it anxious. I think it made him anxious too. He told me he got in his own place and walked me quietly to his new car.
I want to get my mate's approval,
He said as he opened the door to his Jaguar, smiling softly. The dark green leather interior screamed luxury, and even though I never considered myself materialistic, something about the car made my eyes grow wide, and I said, yes, in my head, a silent approval from both Luce and I. I slid into the seat, my leather Doc Martens clicking against the floor. The car smelled clean and well cared for. What do you need my approval for? I asked, though what I really wanted to ask was if being his mate meant being his girlfriend. But I held back, afraid he might say no.
You're my mate.
He said matter-of-factly. There's that word again. I just rolled my eyes.
Everything I have is yours, and I want to make sure you like it.
Oh, I whispered, unsure how to process what he was saying. Did this mean he wanted to marry me? I didn't grow up calling people mates. Did we only get one? Was it the same as being a girlfriend or boyfriend? I didn't want to start the night with a barrage of questions, though, so again, I just quiet. One of these days, I'm going to make him tell me. I like the car, I said, looking up at him. His hair was loose tonight, and I noticed he had gotten it trimmed. A sharp pang of jealousy flashed through me. I didn't like the idea of someone else running their hands through his hair. I hadn't realized I was giving him a look until he asked,
What's wrong?
He paused before turning on the car, waiting for my response. Who cut your hair? I asked. He smiled. The smug bastard can probably read my face and was enjoying my jealousy. He looked at me again, his smile even more pronounced.
I did.
He said.
I needed to cut off some old ties to an old life.
I scoffed, not entirely pleased with his answer.
You can inspect it if you want. Smell it. Feel it. You'll smell no other female.
He teased.
I have nothing to hide, baby.
He invited me to sit closer, and I was glad the seats in his Jaguar were close together. I started to play with his hair, and it was so soft, smelling nice and clean. I inched closer to catch another whiff, and that's when I felt his arms wrap around me, pulling me closer. Suddenly, I was on his lap. The seat reclined beneath us, and we were kissing. He gently eased me off and back onto my seat before starting the car and taking off. We drove for quite some time. When we finally stopped, we were in a new house, isolated in the middle of the desert. We stood in a spacious bedroom, a massive king-size bed with a handmade manzanita wood bed frame draped in luxurious white linen before us.
Here you go.
Monks suddenly chirped, snapping me out of my nostalgic memories from our first night together. We were together for 3 nights until he finally said goodbye. I hadn't seen him last night, or today. I was missing him. Terribly. I sighed. I didn't want to pull myself from my memories, but Monks's truck came to a stop in the parking lot. We both got out so she could hand me her gift.
I got this for you.
She said, handing me a silver necklace with a turquoise pendant shaped like a pterodactyl, the nickname she had given the Thunderbird. Monks had her hair braided with ribbons, and she'd also done mine. We'd done each other's makeup before the powwow, and I had to admit, we both looked pretty sweet. I was shocked by the gift, not knowing what to say, especially as the metal began to heat up and sting my fingers. I pretended to trip and dropped the necklace, using the opportunity to quickly snap the chain. "I'm so sorry," I exclaimed, quickly picking up the pieces and tucking them into my hidden skirt pocket. I threaded a red ribbon through the charm and tied it around my neck, letting it rest above my shirt to muffle the burning sensation. "I'll get it fixed as soon as I can, I promise," I added, thinking I might have my new jewelry maker fix it for me.
Fine.
She said, trying not to sound disappointed.
Come on, let's go find a seat on the bleachers.
We made our way through the growing crowd, quickly moving past the tents that were filling up with eager buyers and curious onlookers. My heart was racing, and I wasn't sure why. I could feel it in my bones. Something magical was going to happen tonight. It wasn't the same sharp, physical anticipation I felt the last time I visited the pit. This felt more spiritual, like there was magic in the air. Or maybe I was just getting used to being free from the poison. What if this was how my life was meant to be experienced? My vision was sharper, my sense of smell more acute, and the energy. It was unreal, like a constant caffeine buzz that never wore off. Vibrant, free, strong, and bloody. I stopped myself at that thought. Bloody? The craving was back. Maybe this was more like that night in the pit than I realized. I imagined myself with fangs and swished my tongue around my mouth, feeling both relieved and disappointed that they weren't there. The look of horror on Andy's face that night when he noticed my father had had them removed was like a punch in the gut. I know being in foster care can drive a person to imagine all sorts of things about their parents, alive, dead, coming to rescue them. If he really was my father and he hadn't killed me or my wolf yet, then it just felt right that he wasn't evil. It was a sense I got, just a hunch. I just wished he hadn't erased my memories of our meeting. That a-hole is going to have to explain himself if we meet again. If he's here tonight, I'll make sure to tell him just that. Just then, we heard our names being called, and I saw a few familiar faces waving us over. Torito. I hoped he had forgotten that I was supposed to call him. He was up on the bleachers with some friends, waiting for us.
Hey,
Monks called out, waving back. I smiled at them, trying to avoid direct eye contact in case my eyes were glowing. Monks and I quickly got situated one row below them. I shoved the desire for blood deep down, focusing instead on my pretty little black moccasins. I needed to get Monks a gift soon. Some turquoise earrings to match her green eyes would be perfect.
Hi, Mags.
Torito greeted me as he slid into the empty seat next to me. His sudden presence made me tense up, my bloodlust flaring momentarily, but within seconds, it vanished, leaving me perplexed.
It's probably all the silver he wears.
Luz whispered in my mind. Oh, right. Torito was a silversmith, too. I preferred Andy's jewelry, though, since he was my soulmate. I guess I was partial to it. The thought of my new bracelet gracing my wrist brought a smile to my lips.
Whoa, look at that.
Torito exclaimed, grabbing my wrist to inspect the bracelet. He examined it closely, his expression shifting as if he was trying to figure out if I had somehow lost my aversion to silver.
Who made this?
Torito asked, his tone filled with genuine admiration.
The craftsmanship is exquisite. Can you take it off so I can see it up close?
I better not, I replied, gently pulling my arm back. The moment felt awkward, a tension hanging in the air. I just don't want to risk losing it, I added, turning to give him a small, apologetic smile.
Oh, don't worry about it,
Torito said, waving off my concern. Then, with a casual air that caught me off guard, he asked,
So, do you have a boyfriend?
His straightforwardness made my face flush with heat. He didn't waste any time, did he?
No, she doesn't.
Monks interjected before I could even formulate a response. I stammered, caught off guard, but when I saw Torito's smile widen, something, or perhaps it was Luce's protective instinct, made me blurt out, Yes, I do,
Yes.
Monks exclaimed, her eyes narrowing in surprise.
Who?
She demanded, leaning in closer. I laughed nervously, feeling the pressure mount. I might as well tell them. Well, he's not exactly my boyfriend. We just hang out sometimes, I explained, trying to downplay the situation.
Sheesh.
Torito laughed out loud.
Well, if I had a girlfriend, I'd claim her right away.
He shook his head, his voice turning more serious.
Not just hang out.
He muttered, clearly disapproving, and he was right. But how could I possibly explain the complexities of my situation? His name is Andy, and he's new in town. I haven't told you yet, but I was planning on telling you tonight, I lied, trying to sound convincing.
Well, why isn't he here with you?
Monks asked, clearly intrigued. He's working, I lied again, feeling a bit foolish. Honestly, he did say he was going to be busy tonight and that he'd accompany me to the next powwow. I promise I'll introduce you guys soon, I added, hoping to deflect any further questions.
Well,
Torito said after a pause.
We better go in, guys. We gotta get ready.
You're dancing.
Monks asked, her excitement evident.
Yeah,
Torito replied with a grin.
but you're going to have to guess which one I am. I'll be in full regalia.
And with that, Torito and his two friends, whom I hadn't been introduced to, climbed down the bleachers and headed off to prepare.
Are you sure you two are cousins?
Monks teased, nudging me playfully. I didn't know how to respond, so I just shrugged.
He likes you.
She added, her tone suggesting more than she was saying. I just shook my head. I like him too, but not in that way. He felt more like a brother to me.
And we have a mate.
Luce interjected protectively. I know, but I can't tell her that. I shot back, feeling the familiar tug of our inner dialogue. But he's also not my boyfriend. I teased Luz, knowing it would drive her crazy. I couldn't help it. I knew she'd go ballistic even though she knew I wasn't interested in Torito that way. Sometimes it was nice to be the one causing her a little bit of stress instead of the other way around. I burst out laughing, feeling Luce paw at me in the recesses of my mind.
What?
Monks asked, puzzled by my sudden outburst.
He's cute and nice. If you don't want him, I'll take him, seeing that you're cousins and all.
For a while, the night returned to its usual rhythm. The excitement in the air remained, but it mellowed into something more peaceful. The sun began to set behind us, and the temperature finally started to drop. Speakers came and went. Children danced in their little regalia, and we cheered for them as if they had just won the biggest game of the season. The Kachina dancers were up next, and We sat there, talking about life and the future while watching the crowd grow. I was grateful we had found good seats as the bleachers began to fill. We bought drinks and fry bread tacos from a vendor who was making the rounds. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I took that first bite, realizing I hadn't eaten all day. And then the festival truly began. The Kachina dancers emerged earlier than I expected, and I could barely contain my excitement. I had never seen Kachina dancers before. I had assumed the women would dance too, but when I asked Monks about it, she quickly hushed me, mentioning something about
Not at this one.
the dancers came out from the side of the football field, each one dressed as a different spiritual being. There must have been 100 of them, all adorned in mystical regalia. I recognized a crow, a horse, even a lizard. There were others I didn't recognize, but I knew they represented various nature spirits as well. I spotted 3 owls, great horned owl spirits, but none were barn owls. My heart ached as I saw about 20 wolves, none of them Andy. I searched the dancers for someone who might be Torito, but they were all so well camouflaged in their costumes. Their dancing was vigorous and energetic, each performer surpassing the next in skill and balance.
Look with your nose. Mags,
Lou suggested, making me cringe a bit. I wasn't used to relying on my wolf senses, and sniffing people still felt strange to me, invasive. Well, except for Andy. My nose was practically obsessed with him.
Ugh,
Luce groaned.
just take a whiff. You know what he smells like.
Fine, I sighed. I lowered my head and closed my eyes, bringing my bracelet Torito had touched close to my nose. I took a moment to sift through the hundreds of scents coming from it. My own scent, jasmine and rose, just as Andy had mentioned. The lotion I wore, though technically unscented, had a faint coconut oil base. The spices from my fry bread taco were overpowering, so I had to take another whiff to get past the peppers and onions, and then, yes, there he was. Torito smelled like coconuts and aluminum. No, that was his deodorant. He smelled like mint and chocolate. Chocolate mint. I lifted my head, tracing the scent trail with my nose until I opened my eyes and spotted him. I should have known. He was a thunderbird, a beautiful turquoise, yellow, white, and green bird. He didn't look anything like a pterodactyl, I thought to myself, smiling at the comparison. I watched him for a second, admiring his determination and concentration as he danced. He turned, his feathered arms sweeping through the air as if flying gracefully. I saw him pound his feet with strength and rhythm to the drums echoing behind him. And then, suddenly, I got a strange feeling in the pit of my stomach, like déjà vu. The sensation was unsettling, making me hunch over in pain as I scanned the crowd. I started seeing things, strange faces among the crowd, staring at me with red eyes filled with hunger. What was wrong with me? As quickly as I noticed them, they shifted back into normal human faces. I grabbed my new pendant and rubbed it with my fingers for luck. The burning sensation intensified, and before it became too painful, I let the charm fall, letting it dangle over my chest. The music seemed to grow louder, rushing into my ears. I could hear a native flute playing in the background, its haunting, serene melody both soothing and aggravating me at the same time. Tears welled up in the corners of my eyes, and I quickly wiped them away before Monks could notice. I grabbed a plastic water bottle being passed around, grateful for the cool liquid against my throat. The water was partially frozen, a blessing against the blood hunger that was beginning to creep back. Maybe the sun had just been too much for me. It was almost nighttime. I just had to hold on a little while longer. Silently, I pleaded for the faint falling stars to hurry up and grace us with their presence. A new rhythm of drums filled the air, a powerful symphony that resonated deep within my bones. Normally, I loved the sound of drums. Their steady beat grounded me, but tonight, my head was already pounding with its own erratic rhythm, and the added noise was unbearable. I closed my eyes, trying to steady my breathing, but when I opened them again, the world around me had shifted. My vision blurred and sharpened in strange ways, and I knew that Luce, my wolf, was near the surface. "Stop it, Luce, please," I begged her through the mind link as Andy had taught me.
I'm not doing anything. I swear.
Luce's voice in my mind was frantic, and I saw her in my mind's eye, anxiously scanning the area.
There are other wolves around, but they're not themselves. They're under someone else's control.
I peered back into the crowd, trying to see what Luce was seeing. The dancers' movements became ghostly and ethereal, their forms blurring as if caught between worlds. Among the living, I began to see figures that didn't belong, ghosts of ancient natives, their eyes fixed intently on me. Their presence was both comforting and unnerving, a reminder of my roots and the struggle that weighed on my shoulders. But why were they watching me? I could hear the faint sound of their singing, the jingling of their skirts as they shook them at me. If these were my ancestors, where was my mother? Nowhere in that ghost crowd, I feel. Perhaps she really was alive. Then I noticed someone else watching me from across the bleachers on the other side of the field. It was a man, bald but with features that still held a native resemblance. He wore regalia, but I couldn't identify what kind of kachina he was supposed to be. I didn't really think he was a kachina dancer. His eyes glowed a bright, unnatural red, and his face was pale and gaunt like a skull stitched together with scraps of rotten flesh. Why couldn't the people standing next to him see that? He mumbled something at me, and though my ears heard it, the words made no sense. "Monks," I whispered, nudging my friend who stood beside me. "Do you see them?" Monks followed my gaze, but her eyes remained focused on the dancers.
See what, Mags?
"The ghosts," I insisted, my voice trembling. "They're watching us." Monks shook her head, concern etched on her face.
I don't see anything. Are you feeling okay?
I wasn't sure how to answer. My head spun and the world seemed to tilt around me. I avoided making eye contact with her, afraid my eyes might be glowing red like that night in my bathroom. I needed to buy some sunglasses, and soon I stared back at the creepy man, and the scent of decay filled my nostrils.
Rogue shifter. Witch.
Luce whispered, her voice barely a murmur, as if it took all her strength to speak. The drumming grew louder and more insistent, and I could feel my heart racing in time with the beat. My eyes felt dry, and a strange sensation gripped me, as if my very soul was being sucked away by the creature staring at me. I struggled to breathe, my chest heaving, but no air seemed to fill my lungs. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. The owl. Its piercing screech cut through the air, a loud, aggressive sound, but it wasn't directed at me. It was aimed at the rogue. This owl had appeared before at the pit. I was sure of it. Its large, unblinking eyes bore into mine, as if looking past me and straight at Luz. A chill ran down my spine as I pointed up, my hand trembling. Monks, the owl, it's here, I said, my voice shaking as I pointed upward. But Monks only saw the night sky, clear and star-filled.
There's no owl, Mags. You need to calm down. Did you take some shrooms? I didn't think you did stuff like that.
She added, her tone tinged with annoyance. No, I protested. I don't do those things. How could I explain to her the battle raging inside me? The ghosts, the owl, they weren't just symbols of my inner turmoil. They were real manifestations of the war within me. The vampire in me craved to feed, to surrender to the primal urges, while my werewolf side fought desperately to maintain control. I was a creature of two worlds, and tonight, those worlds were colliding again. I stumbled back in my seat, desperate to find some clarity. The ghosts whispered to me, their words lost in the overwhelming noise of the powwow. I needed to regain control, to ground myself. I'm going to the restroom, I said abruptly. Monks scoffed, clearly irritated.
Mags, you're going to miss everything.
That's the point, I called back, walking away quickly and waving goodbye. I made my way to the parking lot and found a tree to hide under. I wished Andy were here. He would know how to help me, just like he had last time. I focused on the earth beneath my feet. It was the only place where I didn't see ghostly faces. This was my heritage, my strength. But why did I seem allergic to it? To nature? To life?
It's not you. It's that man.
Luce whispered to me. Taking a deep breath, I centered myself, pushing back the vampire urges with all my might. The ghosts faded, and the owl disappeared into the night. In the distance, the dancers came back into focus, their movements a beautiful blur of color and tradition. I was still Mags, still part of this world, not dead yet, stuck in mid-transformation. Just then, a dark car pulled up next to me. I gasped, staring at the tinted windows, trying to see who was inside. Andy? No, it was my father.
Get her!
Someone shouted from behind me. A sheet was suddenly thrown over my head, blinding me. I tried to scream, but strong hands clamped over my mouth. I struggled, but within moments, I was shoved into the car, speeding off into the night to some unknown destination. Luce, I called out to her in a panic. I'm sorry. Please don't let my father take you away. You must stay strong. And then everything went black.
Follow and help me bring more content to you.